On March 2nd, 2026, three corporations released a joint statement from Greater Sudbury, Ontario, and outside the battery business and mining industry, very few people paid close attention to what it actually contained. One of those companies was Frontier Lithium, a Canadian firm moving forward with what its feasibility assessment describes as the highest grade lithium deposit in North America, located in the rock formations of northwestern Ontario. Another participant was Mitsubishi Corporation, one of Japan's largest trading houses. The company had already formed a joint venture alongside Frontier to advance the resource, and also holds a 15% ownership position in LNG Canada, the first major liquefied natural gas export terminal developed in Canada. The third company involved was Panasonic Energy, the Japanese battery producer that has supplied roughly 19 billion lithium-ion battery cells to electric vehicle manufacturers around the world. In July of 2025, the company launched a $4 billion factory in DeSoto, Kansas, and remains the primary battery supplier for Tesla, Lucid Motors, Subaru, and several additional automakers producing the next generation of electric vehicles across North America. Together, the three companies signed a memorandum of understanding tied to the possible supply of lithium salts and a wider strategic partnership intended to support a secure and localized battery supply chain throughout North America. The agreement confirmed that all parties were prepared to negotiate a definitive offtake arrangement once the project reached the appropriate phase of development. The focus now turns to what Frontier Lithium controls beneath the ground in Ontario, what Panasonic Energy requires for future production, and why Canadian supply has become important specifically for that purpose. It also raises questions about the regulatory structure influencing the agreement, the role Mitsubishi plays in making this partnership different from a standard commercial arrangement, and the broader series of Canadian lithium agreements signed in recent months. This is not a standalone agreement. It forms part of a much larger shift, now changing the origin point for the materials that North America's electric vehicle sector depends upon most heavily. The PAK Lithium project is located 175 kilometers north of Red Lake in northwestern Ontario. The site sits within a region of the Canadian Shield, first identified by Ontario government geologists in the late 1990s as containing unusual lithium characteristics. Frontier Lithium has continued drilling and developing the area systematically since 2013. The geology itself is critical because lithium deposits vary significantly in quality and suitability. The PAK deposit contains a lithium cesium tantalum type pegmatite. The lithium-bearing mineral inside the deposit is spodumene. What separates the PAK spodumene from many other North American deposits is its grade and purity. Across the PAK and Spark deposits, the average grade sits at approximately 1.5 to 2.0% lithium oxide, making it the highest grade spodumene resource currently identified in North America. Iron concentration is another major factor because excessive impurity levels reduce suitability for battery grade applications. At PAK, iron oxide content remains below 0.1%. That level qualifies the material for what the industry classifies as technical and ceramic grade spodumene, meaning it can move directly into battery grade lithium chemical processing without the extra purification stages required by deposits carrying higher iron content. The feasibility study released in May of 2025 confirmed 31.1 million tons of proven and probable reserves spread across the PAK, Spark, and Bolt deposits. Average grade measured 1.51% lithium oxide. Estimated mine life reaches 31 years. Production from the mine and mill operation is projected at roughly 200,000 tons annually of 6% spodumene concentrate. Further downstream, a planned conversion facility in Thunder Bay would process that concentrate into approximately 20,000 tons each year of battery-grade lithium salts. The facility is targeting initial production in 2030 and would become the first lithium hydroxide conversion plant on the continent. The project carries an after-tax net present value of 932 million Canadian dollars, calculated using an 8% discount rate, alongside an internal rate of return of 18%. Initial capital expenditure for the mine and mill alone is estimated at 943 million Canadian dollars. The entire structure has been designed as a vertically integrated operation. Mining, milling, concentrate production, and downstream chemical conversion are all planned within one connected Ontario-based system. In October of 2025, the Ontario government selected the PAK Lithium project as the first operation approved under the province's new One Project, One Process framework, commonly referred to as 1P1P. The designation reduces government review timelines by as much as 50% for advanced mineral projects through the coordination of provincial ministries, agencies, and regulatory reviews into one unified process. For a development of this scale, Located in a remote region requiring upgraded roads and new transmission infrastructure, the difference between ordinary permitting and a process shortened by 50% translates into years of time savings. Ontario tied the 1P1P designation directly to the province's recognition that PAK represents Ontario's largest lithium development project and the first fully integrated lithium operation planned in Canada. At the same time, the province announced plans to launch consultations for a new transmission connection between Dryden and Red Lake. The Independent Electricity System Operator's regional outlook projected that electricity demand across the area could rise by as much as 250% because of expanding mining activity. In January of 2026, Frontier Chief Executive Officer Trevor Walker stated that the company was aiming for a final investment decision either in late 2027 or early 2028, with initial production expected close to the end of the decade. The faster permitting process and the Panasonic agreement are both advancing along the same schedule. Now consider Panasonic Energy itself and why the company chose to pursue this arrangement with Canada instead of sourcing from China, Chile, or Argentina. Panasonic Energy operates as a subsidiary of the Panasonic Group. In April of 2022, it was established as an independent operating company dedicated entirely to battery production and battery technology. The company leads the North American market in cylindrical lithium-ion battery cells for electric vehicles. Globally, it has delivered approximately 19 billion cells to EV manufacturers. Panasonic Energy also operates the battery facility located within Tesla's Gigafactory campus in Sparks, Nevada, the plant that enabled Tesla to scale vehicle production into meaningful volume. Then, in July of 2025, Panasonic Energy opened its new $4 billion battery facility in DeSoto, Kansas. The site spans approximately 1.2 million square meters, placing it among the largest automotive battery manufacturing plants in North America. The Kansas facility began large-scale production of 2170 cylindrical cells, the same battery format used in Tesla Model 3 and Model Y vehicles, along with vehicles manufactured by Lucid Motors, Subaru, and additional manufacturers. At full operation, the site is targeting annual production capacity of roughly 32 gigawatt hours. Under its dual-pillar manufacturing strategy centered on Japan and North America, Panasonic Energy committed itself to becoming the principal cylindrical battery supplier for a North American electric vehicle sector being constructed around regional supply chain security and domestic content compliance requirements. Every one of those 32 gigawatt hours of yearly battery output from Kansas requires lithium. But the issue is not simply access to lithium, it is access to qualifying lithium. Under the framework established by the Inflation Reduction Act, electric vehicle batteries eligible for consumer tax incentives must obtain an increasing share of critical minerals, including lithium, either from the United States or from nations holding free trade agreements with the United States. Canada qualifies under the USMCA framework as a free trade partner. By 2027, the required threshold rises to 80% of mineral value. If an EV battery uses lithium sourced from China, it cannot qualify for those credits. If the lithium originates in Ontario, is refined in Thunder Bay, and then delivered to a Kansas battery facility, the battery remains eligible. This is not a minor regulatory technicality. It forms the structural foundation of an annual North American EV tax credit market valued between $20 billion and $30 billion, accessible only to companies operating compliant supply chains. Panasonic Energy therefore requires Canadian lithium not simply out of commercial preference, but as a competitive necessity inside the North American market. Its Kansas operation was designed to serve. The second component of the supply chain centers on lithium hydroxide, the chemical form required by most advanced EV cathode systems. Panasonic Energy specializes in nickel, cobalt, manganese, and nickel, cobalt, aluminum cathode chemistries. Those chemistries, which remain at the leading edge of cylindrical battery performance, rely primarily on lithium hydroxide as their lithium source. Lithium hydroxide is produced from spodumene concentrate through a conversion sequence beginning with roasting the spodumene so it shifts from its natural alpha phase into a more chemically reactive beta phase. Afterward, the material undergoes leaching, purification, and crystallization to extract lithium hydroxide from solution. The proposed Thunder Bay conversion facility, connected to the PAK project, has been specifically designed for this exact process. The facility would receive 200,000 tons annually of spodumene concentrate from the Ontario mine and convert it into battery-grade lithium hydroxide monohydrate for customers such as Panasonic Energy. The Memorandum of Understanding, signed by Frontier Lithium, Panasonic Energy, and Mitsubishi Corporation, covers the possible procurement of lithium salts, including lithium hydroxide, and confirms that all three sides are prepared to negotiate a formal offtake agreement at the proper development stage. According to the Canadian Manufacturing Report discussing the memorandum, Panasonic Energy expressed direct interest in obtaining lithium hydroxide from the PAK project itself. That means lithium extracted from the Ontario mine, refined in Thunder Bay, and then transported to manufacturing facilities in Kansas and Nevada. This supply chain is not theoretical. It follows a precise geographic route stretching from the Canadian Shield into the American Midwest. It has also been formally structured through cooperation between 3 major institutions, each carrying a direct interest in ensuring the arrangement succeeds. The Mitsubishi element of the agreement deserves close attention because its involvement changes what would otherwise be a simple commercial arrangement between a mining company and a battery manufacturer into something supported by a much deeper institutional structure. Mitsubishi Corporation ranks among Japan's largest trading conglomerates, with subsidiaries and affiliated operations spanning energy, chemicals, mining, automotive supply systems, and industrial materials. The 5% ownership stake held by Mitsubishi Corporation in the Frontier Mitsubishi joint venture developing the PAK project means the company is already a direct co-owner of the resource itself and of the broader development strategy. That also means Mitsubishi carries a proportional share of the capital needed to move the project into production. Mitsubishi also owns a 15% stake in LNG Canada, the liquefied natural gas export terminal in British Columbia that began shipments to Asian buyers in June of 2025. Through that position, Mitsubishi holds direct marketing rights to 2.1 million tons of Canadian LNG each year for Japan and other Asian markets. Its participation in supply chain discussions involving Panasonic Energy links Mitsubishi's role in Canadian natural resources with its position inside Japanese industrial supply systems, using the same corporate institution to connect both sides. This is not Panasonic Energy entering an agreement with a small mining developer and simply hoping construction eventually happens. Panasonic Energy is signing an MOU tied to a project where Mitsubishi Corporation already stands as a partner, an investor, and a major institutional anchor. Mitsubishi itself signed alongside the agreement, attaching its name to a commitment it had already supported with capital investment. The combination of Panasonic's credibility on the demand side and Mitsubishi's financial involvement on the supply side creates exactly the type of structure capable of moving a development project closer toward investment level certainty. The broader context also matters because the Frontier Panasonic Mitsubishi agreement did not emerge on its own. The memorandum was signed on March 2, 2026. During the following 6 weeks, Leonardo from Italy signed an MOU with Canadian partners to secure critical mineral supplies tied to advanced manufacturing and defense supply chains. Germany's ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems signed a teaming arrangement with E3 Lithium in Alberta involving Canadian lithium for submarine battery supply systems. Germany's Arubis finalized a long-term copper supply agreement with Troilus Gold connected to the Quebec Copper Project. Germany's Vacuum Schmelze also signed a rare earth supply memorandum with Macango Resources. Then, on March 6, 2026, just 4 days after the Frontier Panasonic agreement became public, Japan and Canada signed a comprehensive strategic partnership in Tokyo covering energy, critical minerals, semiconductors, and defense. The PAK Lithium agreement now sits directly at the intersection of Japan's most important industrial priorities. Those priorities include energy security, electric vehicle supply chain resilience, and reducing reliance on China for the materials powering Japan's automotive manufacturing economy. Japanese automotive manufacturers account for 77% of automobile production in Canada. Japan also imports approximately 10% of Canada's total caloric output. Now Japan's leading battery producer is constructing the contractual framework for a Canadian lithium supply chain connecting a rock formation in northwestern Ontario to the electric vehicles North American consumers are expected to drive over the next 30 years. All of this is unfolding because Canada possesses the necessary geology, has spent years building institutional partnerships, and is increasingly being recognized by the world's most advanced industrial buyers as the foundation for a democratic alternative to lithium supply systems currently routed through China. At the same time, the full reality remains more complicated. The PAK Lithium project, although advanced by Canadian hard rock lithium standards, is still in the pre-production stage. A final investment decision is targeted either for late 2027 or early 2028. Commercial lithium hydroxide production is projected around 2030. The Thunder Bay conversion facility still requires its own financing process, separate permitting approvals, and its own construction schedule alongside the mine and mill operation. The location itself also creates challenges. The site sits 175 km north of Red Lake and more than 1,400 km northwest of Toronto. Industrial scale mining there requires upgraded roads along with new electrical transmission infrastructure. Frontier's after-tax net present value of 932 million Canadian dollars is based on lithium price assumptions that have experienced major volatility in both directions during the last 4 years. The EV tax credit system established through the United States Inflation Reduction Act, the same regulatory framework that makes Canadian lithium especially valuable for a Kansas battery factory, has also faced policy uncertainty under the current United States administration. EV consumer tax credits are scheduled for elimination effective September 30th, 2026, under the Budget Reconciliation Bill. Panasonic Energy's own production expansion in Kansas has also been delayed from its original March 2027 full capacity target because electric vehicle demand in the United States has softened. The Memorandum of Understanding establishes a framework and confirms a willingness to negotiate. It does not guarantee that a final offtake agreement will ultimately be signed. It also does not guarantee agreement on commercial terms or confirm that construction will proceed according to the current development timeline. Frontier's own press release states clearly that no assurance exists that the memorandum will produce a definitive transaction. That is not criticism of the project's value. It is simply the practical reality of what an MOU represents and what it does not represent. What the agreement does provide is a public commitment from 3 major institutions confirming that the PAK Lithium project has secured a position inside the North American electric vehicle battery supply chain. In the current environment, where Canada's geological resources are increasingly viewed by democratic allied nations as the alternative supply chains the global economy requires, securing that position matters. If financing, permitting, construction, and market conditions ultimately align, Northern Ontario could become one of the central regions shaping how North America powers its electric future. If you want more deep analysis on critical minerals, energy security, industrial supply chains, and the geopolitical shifts reshaping North America and its allies, stay connected for the next report. Please leave your thoughts about this content in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.